Mr. President, and thank you, Senator Benson, for offering this bill. I was going to offer it myself. I was going to tell a little bit of a story about this group of legislators about 25 years ago. I don't know if the secretary was here then or not. I know he's been around these chambers quite a while. They called this group the Gang of Seven. And the Gang of Seven was a bipartisan group of legislators, Republicans and Democrats in the House and Senate, that came up with this idea that they wanted to figure out a way to help provide health care or to pay for health care for people in Minnesota that couldn't afford it. I know a little bit about it because it was my predecessor, former State Senator Berglund, who was widely considered one of the leaders of it, along with State Senator Benson, who we unfortunately lost this year and was widely revered in these parts on both sides of the aisle. And there were others, Representative Greenwood and others, but it was a novel idea 25 years ago to put a tax, if you will, or to assess a tax on the providers in order for them to be able to do their job and not have to worry about not getting paid. So this Gang of Seven came up with this great idea that we now know as the provider tax, which then pours into the Health Care Access Fund. And the Health Care Access Fund has been a strong model throughout the country at providing resources to pay for people who need help with their health care. That has evolved over the years. We now have the ACA and others, and so it originally paid for Minnesota Care, and now it is still reaping benefits. It's paying for things like Medicaid and others, still the same or similar populations. And members, it's about $1 billion in the tails. And so once again, this is already in place. So Senator Benson has said this a lot, and I don't characterize it as a new tax. It's something that we have already been paying. It's something that is already working well. Members, there's over 120 organizations and people that have signed on, and once again, we'll get that out to you. I will say, Senator Benson, and I was so glad to see her bring this forward, that has said that this is something that they think Minnesota needs. The governor has said that. Commissioner Lori, somebody who we all know very well, is on favor with that, and in other ways in which we can help make sure that we can continue to provide affordable health care for Minnesotans. The Health Care Access Fund also helped with things like a medical economist, just to do the work here to make sure that we understand what the trends are. You're going to hear that we have an arbitrary trend cut just to try to cover costs, but we actually have people who study that and do that work. It also helped to fund, and sometimes some people like it and some people don't, the statewide health improvement program. And I know some of the physicians and other healthcare professionals in this room know that the best thing that they could do, at least they tell me every time I go to the doctor, is to think about what I'm putting in so that they don't have to give me something to counteract that. And statewide health improvement does that work. So, Mr. President, I encourage members to vote for the state to vote for the provider tax or the repeal of the sunset. 11 years ago or 9 years ago, when we put the sunset on it, we have on both sides of the aisle, and depending upon who is in charge, have not found a solution. And now the day has come where the sunset will happen. And not only will this have a grave impact on the health care access of Minnesotans, but it's also going to put the pressure that we know is happening in other parts of our budget, because the general fund will have to come into play to supplement that. So no matter if you care about this issue or not, and often people think about this committee and it's not their cup of tea, if you will. I hear members saying it, but whatever is your cup of tea, rest assured that if we don't vote this on, if we don't repeal the sunset of the provider tax, it's going to have grave impacts all over this budget.